Evening. My name is Chapin and I want to start by saying thank you to the Republican women for putting this together. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, my background. I grew up in Central Illinois, Charleston, college town, much like the one we're in tonight. Married my high school sweetheart, Camille. We have 4 children. We have 8 and 6, and we have 21-month-old twin girls. After graduating from Charleston High School, I went to the University of Illinois. Upon graduating there, I was named one of the top 100 graduating seniors. After that, I went to law school at the U of I, became a prosecutor. Spent quite a bit of time protecting those of us in East Central Illinois, partnering with law enforcement to take bad guys off the streets. And shortly after being a prosecutor, I was elected to the General Assembly. And have done a lot in the criminal law front. I was the principal sponsor of the Methamphetamine Control Act and a lot of other things. But tonight, I want to talk about where we want to be, where we want to go. Like many in this room, I'm sure, are fed up. About 3 years ago, I got so fed up, I pulled down the state budget, downloaded the entire thing to my laptop in Excel file. It's about a 3-inch document on paper, but I put it all in an Excel file. I went through line by line, every last penny, started cutting. We don't need this, we do need that, but less of it. Maybe we need a little bit more of that, but went through it all. Identified $4.8 billion in cuts. $4.8 billion in cuts. It took me about a week to do it. Didn't sleep a lot that week, but just did it. And that's what we're about as Americans. We're here to solve problems. Good old-fashioned Yankee ingenuity. It's about taking hard work, energy, and innovation towards a problem. I went through that budget, identified it. This year, in this current budget, we actually cut $2.8 billion out of the current budget. Now, the reality is we need to go beyond that. We need to cut more. And we're going to do that. I'm a member of our Medicaid task force. We're charged with and tasked with making $2.7 billion in cuts to Medicaid this year. But also, I think a prosecutor sensed this. I look at things like $1.5 billion a year in wasted fraudulent activity and welfare. And I hope I'll get a chance to talk about that later. Thank you.
I'm Tom Pliura. I don't have any political experience. My opponent knows the political system very well. Please don't assume that I'm critical of Mr. Rose's personal stature when I make these comments. We've got enough politicians down in Springfield. We need some problem solvers. If you're happy with what we've got in the state now, please, by all means, vote for Mr. Rose. He's a part of the problem. I want to take the legislative scholarship program. It's been criticized by a lot of people, been the focus of newspaper articles. Mr. Rose has given out 85 legislative scholarships. And I'll just pick one. As an example, he gave a legislative scholarship to the Douglas County Republican Committee chairman and his brother, and to the niece of the Douglas County Republican Committee chairman, and the brother of the chairman. They had both donated money to his campaign, and then Mr. Rose gives a scholarship. Now, unless you're politically connected, you don't get that. Now, we put Blagojevich in jail for selling a Senate seat. We can't blame the Democrats when we've got to clean up our own house. Okay? And, how many has he given out? He's given out 85 legislative scholarships. It's been all over the news about how bad they are. And now, Mr. Rose says he's going to sponsor legislation to get rid of it. But he's given out 85. The system, I criticize the system for allowing that. I'll give you another example. Mr. Rose is real tight with a lot of... go ahead. Is that it? Very good.
I'm going to start with some questions. Most observers agree the 2 biggest financial issues facing the state government today are public employee pension system and then the Medicaid program. I know both of you have strong views on both of those. Let's start with pensions. I'm going to start with Dr. Pluira. Assess the problem and what do you think must be done to address it? Not what needs to be done, what must be done to address it.
Well, we need to make immediate changes. Mr. Rose voted against pension reform. He was one of the few Republicans that voted against pension reform. And we've got a bill pending, Senate Bill 512, and in Mr. Rose's response in the Chicago Tribune, they asked him point blank, would you vote for Senate Bill 512? Okay? And if you read the response, it's the typical politician's response. You're talking a big circle, but you don't ever get it. The question is, would Mr. Rose vote for Senate Bill 512? Okay? That's the question. The answer is, when I filled mine out, yes, I'll vote for Senate Bill 512. But you don't get that from a career politician. And we need to reform the system. We need to clean up the abuses, this business where you can have a lobbyist work as a substitute teacher for one day and then tap into the system. We're going to have to, probably going to have to increase some of the contribution that the teachers are making from 9.4 under Senate Bill 512, you go up to 13.4. An option for a 401k, I think that's reasonable. And clearly, we've got to separate it from the newly hired teachers. But whatever decision is made, it's got to be educationally sound. And what I mean by that is, what's been passed is, we've got, Democrats passed this thing in one day. And now we've got teachers that are 67 years old, they got to go work till they're 67. And they could be a kindergarten teacher. That's not educationally sound. It's not feasible and believable or reasonable that we could have a 67-year-old kindergarten teacher teaching kids that bring in their iPads and playing on the ground with them. So we've got to make some changes. We need Senate Bill 512 passed.
I want to just briefly respond to the comment you made a minute ago. And if Mr. Pluira had asked me in advance, he would have found out that my legislative scholarships were awarded to school districts, and the school districts picked the winners. A. B, I stopped awarding about 3 years ago. Now, on your pension question, let's talk about this. You got to do it right. And doing it right means you got to bring everybody together. You got to bring everyone in the room and sit them down at a table. There's two things I look for in any possible pension reform. First and foremost is you can't skip a pension payment. I have never one time voted to skip a pension payment, ever. It's the single most fiscally disastrous thing you can do in Springfield. In fact, when Robert Wood skipped 2 years worth of payments in 2005, I held forums at Parkland College and Lakeland College in my district where I invited the whole world to come, and I put a graph on the board drawn up by actuaries and said, in 2010, Illinois will collapse based on these pension skips. One. Two, the bill that you referenced, we didn't vote for. It's because it actually increased the short-term cost problem of our state of Illinois from a cash flow perspective and made us in even a bigger deficit position. 512, one of the major problems with 512 is it would increase your spending as taxpayers by $62 billion. Now, that doesn't mean there isn't a problem. And how you solve a problem is you bring everybody together, like I said, and you put them in a room. And let's talk about the innate issue here. Right now we're shooting at a 90% funded target by 2045. 90% funded by 2045. 35% is the liquidity point. If all we did was shoot for 70 or 80% funded, right there you shave $1 billion off of our annual payment. $1 billion. And those are real solutions. Real solutions. I do believe that we're going to have this year, reform. I think it's going to be cooperative. I think it's going to be based upon what's in the best interest of all parties. Taxpayers, for sure.